Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let Loose with Moose. Today I have my very first female guest and it is none other than Stacy. Hello Stacy, how are you?
Hello, hello. So far, so good. How about you?
I'm doing very good and very glad to have you on with me as well.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be invited. Yeah, I'm looking forward to what we have for today.
Me too, me too. Alright, so without further ado, I'm gonna pose to you my very first question of could you introduce yourself and let us know a little bit of your background, like before you got into the crypto scene?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Actually, I do not really remember my life without crypto,
Oh
to be
wow.
honest, because it all started like in the university. So yeah, I at the moment when I first learned about crypto, I was studying in a university. I have a bachelor's degree in linguistics, and English is not like native language, as you can hear. So back then, like my first foreign language is actually Swedish, and I had a friend in Sweden who actually like told me that he found something interesting. It was actually Bitcoin, and he bought his first Bitcoin at 200 bucks. I was less lucky, but still quite. So I bought my first at 600. But obviously, like I was not the person to hold till all-time highs. Obviously, like for me back then, it seemed when Bitcoin grew to something like 1,000, it seemed that yeah, this is actually like the real breakthrough. This is the time to take profits and everything. And then that classic thing many traders have witnessed when they entered crypto quite early. So yeah, it was actually in 2016. Then I had a very heavy car accident, and
Oh
I
man.
had some debts. Yeah, and actually, like crypto was one of the few options I had to earn sufficient amount of money. So back then we had a crypto platform for bloggers. It was called Steam, and maybe you have heard about that. And the idea of that blog platform was that like people were able to write some content and they were paid for that content in the form of voting power and Steam dollars. And actually, like with my friend from Sweden, I joined that platform very, very early. I was like one of the earliest contributors of it. And because I was like one of the few girls back then in crypto, the community loved me a lot, obviously. And I do remember like my feelings when I just drafted some post about myself. I posted in somewhere around midnight, and then I woke up in the morning and I realized that I have just earned 200 bucks. And for me back then, that was like enormous amount of money. That meant that I could start repairing my car and everything. And I was like super happy about that. And that was how it started. Yeah, so I first started earning on Steam, and then I realized that I want to actually dive deeper in Web3. And so I joined my first startup as a content producer, as a content marketer. So I did some articles for them. I also like had an alternative to actually move to Sweden because after the university I had a like predefined contract with the Swedish embassy, and they invited me to work with them,
Wow,
but I
nice.
chose crypto. Yeah, so that was like the moment for me, which was like I could either go in a governmental position or I can choose something very like a life full of adventures, if you know what I meant. And I chose the latter, and that's how it started, and that's why I'm here still today. Like it's already 7 years of me being a part of like the Web3 community and Web3 marketing. And I should say that I have like no other home than crypto, to be honest.
Wow, that's really a very big statement right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, that means a lot. In the very beginning, like it was just an opportunity to earn money. I did need money badly at that period of time, and it was like some very good profits for relatively like easy job, you know. But then, like as I met more and more people in Web3, I realized that we are like in a way different from others. We are different from Web2 folks. All of us have very different and exciting stories of how they found themselves in crypto, and there is something in common. I mean, maybe that's actually that eagerness to join the life full of adventures, risks, and like not every person can run a startup. It's same as like not every person can do a Web3 job or just like be a part of the Web3 community. It's something very special. especially at that first stage. Yeah.
Right, and you got into crypto really early, right? We said 2016. And do you remember when was like the first time that you interacted with DeFi? Like, or at which stage did you start getting into DeFi? I'm guessing at the start it was more like buying and holding, just kind of more of trading in a sense, right?
Yeah, I should say yes, I do agree here. So actually, like if we are talking about like my career and my experience with crypto, so it obviously started with trading. I mean, part of the Web3 jobs and everything. So the first part was trading. Obviously, I do remember the days when, like, let's say, some exchanges like Polonix were very hyping, or Bittrex. Then we had BitMEX for with perps and derivatives. It was already like in 2018 and 2019, somewhere there. And right after that, I actually found myself in DeFi. So it was early 2019 when I discovered the space. Initially, I did actually know not much about that. It all started again with a job offer. So I had a job offer from an AMM DAX, and obviously I had to learn more about how AMM DAXs work, how it all like operates in an efficient way and everything. And I loved that much more than the centralized counterparties, because I also had some experience working with the centralized exchanges. And that thing with being permissionless and being like having no need to trust your counterparty, that is actually very exciting. That removes the middleman. We don't need banks actually to make our world living, if you know what I mean. And actually, like, we as humans, we live in the world of so many like concepts that we have made up, like governments, borders, everything. Like, it's crazy. It doesn't really exist. For a dog or for a bird, it's some nonsense, but we have them. Yeah, and I do really love DeFi because in a way it simplifies many things and many processes when it comes to finance.
Right, and you really have a really, really rich experience in crypto, even be it your career or like your own personal experience. And it's really nice to hear you share all this, man. Like, for me, I'm pretty new, right, to this whole crypto scene, about second year now, 2021, like late 2021, if I remember correctly, like near the peak of the bull. So, really nice to hear you share all your stories and experiences. Really looking forward to hear what you have to say for the rest of the show as well.
Thank you so much. Actually, like, I didn't really think that it's that important to, like, let's say, be early or be late, because we are all early. And to be honest, like, during my threading journey, I have learned so much new information about DeFi, about how it operates, because I have to research and dive deeper, that it seems to me that the ocean of opportunities and knowledge in Web3 is endless. So yeah, I'm very happy that you're part of the community, and I think that people who will be listening to us will find some inspiration from these talks.
Nice, definitely. And all right, so let's get to where you are right now. So you are actually a CMO at Spin, correct? And before we get into why you decided to join Spin, could you share a little bit about what is Spin actually? And to the listeners, and all this is not sponsored, right? It's purely just out of my own curiosity as well. Okay, so please take
Yeah.
over, Stacy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So actually, like, Spin is a decentralized exchange in the short term, in the short, like, no, on the high level, yeah. It's actually like, let's say that it is something that is a counterparty of centralized exchanges, but permissionless, with all the advantages of DeFi, because it's using the order book model, which is more, let's say, efficient and capital efficient compared to the classic AMM models. And the company started back in 2021, and I knew the founder. And actually, he just like invited me to be a part of the team. I did know the tech specialists of Spin even before that, and that was actually the main reason why I joined the team, because I had lots of experience with low expertise teams, which did not really understand what exactly they were planning to build, which were not really capable to raise money and pitch for their own project, and it was just a waste of time. So the spin team back then seemed to be different because they had some experience with, they actually had their own algo foundation, which is trading derivatives on Deribit and many other platforms. And the actually, yeah, I'd say that the team was the core reason why I chose to join the team. Secondly, back in 2021, we didn't have that many derivatives dexes, and the landscape was not yet like, actually back then we had DYDX and Mango markets on Solana, and that was basically it. We had like somebody like Opin and a few other like guys who were developing options, but it was not that hyping as it is today. Like no games network, no Vela, no level, whatever, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So that was like the second reason why I decided to join the team, because it seemed to me that the narrative is likely to explode. But like, to be honest, from my personal perspective, now I think that we were a bit too late to launch the token and to start like those activities, because for DeFi products, it's essentially very, very important to launch token early and start the token incentives. So yeah, let's see how it will be evolving. Obviously, like the team has very rich background and they do understand a lot about DeFi, about trading and everything. And I do think that we'll be able like together to build a great product in the future. But obviously, like as you build and as you like evolve yourself as a professional, you always do mistakes, and it's essential to learn on these mistakes. So yeah, that's how I joined the team.
Nice. And actually, I have a question. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, but why did Spin decide to launch on Near? Like, what's on Near? What's so special about Near that makes you guys launch there?
That's a very good question, because I love it a lot, because I do have now a lot of criticism to share about Near Foundation, to be honest. So actually, like initially when we made that decision, it was early 2022, we did know that Near will be the best funded layer one across all DeFi. And obviously, we were eager to build there. Back then, the NEO price was like growing. It was something around 12, $14 per 1 year. And actually, many companies were actively launching on top of the NEO protocol, and the interest from the VCs were also very, very high. I mean, we raised actually almost 4 million for developing exactly on NEO protocol, because many VCs, they knew that alpha about the upcoming raises of NEO protocol, and they did believe that the guys will use these funds to actually like make the protocol the next Solana. If you remember, like the bull run that was like the Solana summer and everything, actually everybody was waiting for something similar to take place on Near, but it didn't happen. And I do personally think that they failed on the operation side, because I do know many companies that are part of the Near ecosystem. I do also know the leaders of many guilds out there, and I know that they, even though they have like, according to their statements and according to the accounting, they have lots of funds, they are very rich, but at the same time they cut funding in all like fields they can. For example, like local guilds, they are not really sponsored at the moment, and also there were some cases when they shared like some of their financial statements with funding, and they claim to be funding projects they have never been funding, if you know what I mean. So this is very like odd for me. And yeah, I actually like back then, it was August last year, I even pitched a project to Near Foundation. It was called Near Adventure, and it was like something similar to Arbitrum's Odyssey, in a way, a solution to onboard like millions of users to Near, by simplifying the user journey, by explaining them. It was before the era of Galaxy, actually, but they just told me that, okay, the project is fine, you can do it. We will give you $20,000. Please keep us tuned. So it's like insane. What can we build for $20,000? And why should I build that? Why should I care if that was like my proposal for them to build? And I have lots of criticism about Near, and that's why actually now we have decided to move to Polygon zkEVM. Polygon seems to be far more, let's say, promising, even considering their recent news about like the new token considerations to replace Matic and everything. So I do think that Polygon has a brighter future than Near for sure now.
Awesome. Really nice to hear you share all this. In fact, as you were speaking, I'm like actually looking at DeFi Llama right now to look at how Polygon ZK is doing on the chain, on in terms of TVL. I mean.
Yeah, it's relatively like it's not that bad actually compared to ZK Sync. Of course, it sucks, or compared to Starknet. But I think the reason here is that obviously, like people do not expect an airdrop from Polygon zkEVM, even though like Sandeep has shared some hints that it might happen or something might happen in the future. But obviously, like most people are betting on ZK Sync or Starknet in this L2 like ZK narrative competition. And we should always remember that like those airdrop hunters, when we have the airdrop done, this liquidity goes to some other protocols. And like on the tax side, I mean, the zkEVM solution proposed by Polygon is quite good because it's fully EVM compatible, and you don't really need to make any edits in the code to just deploy your solution in another like L2 network, which is very cool. If you are building on, let's say, Starknet or ZK Sync, you still need to have to make some changes before you deploy it on any other network. But in this regard, like Polygon zkEVM seems to be a good solution to start building some like Ethereum compatible applications. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. And as we all know, you are CMO at Spin. So why did you decide to go on crypto Twitter to become a Threadoor on your own? Like, is this like part of your master plan to gain enough attention before you start blasting out information for Spin? Or
Not
what was the
really.
idea?
Not
Just
really.
kidding.
I
Just
will be
kidding.
like, yeah. I will be like absolutely transparent here. I have worked for a dozen of different companies, and I have worked like as an employee there. And even if you're a C-level employee, as I am at the moment, you cannot control all the risks, and you cannot control the vector of the company development. And now and then I do face like some situations when I do not like 100% agree with this or that, like so a decision made by the other guys from the team. It is that eventually like it's not my project. I'm not the founder of it, and but no matter what, like I do still let's say invest a lot of my energy, creativity, and everything in those things. And in this regard, like Twitter is actually somehow a place in which I can feel, let's say, secure and unlimited in terms of what exactly I want to push, when I want to push, what activities I want to launch, and how I plan to monetize that. I do have quite a few ideas on my own projects, which I would love to launch sometime in the future. So
Awesome.
it's both in, let's say, some correlation with analytics and community building and everything. And yeah, it's just that like I do want to have like more impact on what I'm building than I do have now. That was actually the reason why I started threading and started to make friends with people on Twitter. By the way, what about you? Why did you decide to jump on this trading journey?
Oh, me actually, if the audience has noticed, I actually do not thread a lot. Like compared to even yourself or some of the other guys out there, you guys are really, really grinding it out, man. Like it's crazy. You can be posting daily threads on different projects, sectors, or even sometimes like more than once a day. Where for
Yeah,
me,
it's true.
I kind of didn't really do much threads. Like I remembered my earliest one, I think it was on Phantom NFTs, in fact, because at that point of time, I was looking into Phantom, and I was pretty new to Phantom and also exploring their NFT space at that point of time. And I was like, hey, I don't even know what's going on. So I joined a few communities here and there, different projects, and I just go in there and really started asking a lot of questions. Like, I might be the most annoying community member in their chats at that point of time. I was asking like, so what is this project about? Why should I mint one? Or why should I buy one off the market, right? Or what's so special about you guys? And then I was looking through Twitter and stuff. I was realizing actually there was like not much information about Phantom NFTs at that point of time. So my first thread wasn't even about DeFi. It was actually about a list of Phantom NFTs that I'm looking into and why I think I might purchase them. Like that was how I pretty much started. And of course, my first DeFi experience was also on Phantom. Actually, through Mouse Dasher, I think, like he's with Crypto Banter now. So through his earliest videos from farming, such as like on Beethoven and Liquid Driver. So that was pretty much how I got started. And ever since then, I actually didn't make a lot of threads until a certain time later on where I had the idea of doing a community survey, which I think you might not have seen because it was quite some time back. I was thinking of doing a survey just based on community members, right? Like what coins, like what tokens are you guys looking into? What are you bullish on? And you might have owned them already, and maybe name me some other coins that you are bullish on but you are yet to own them, right? And then kind of did a little bit of an analytics study on that. So didn't have too much responses at the point of time. I think it was somewhere between 50 to less than 100. But I hope to do that again someday, because although it's kind of like shilling your bags, right? But it's really nice to get a sentiment of what the people are looking into, to get some ideas as well, and get some, maybe you could interview them afterwards on like, hey, why do you think this project, like why are you bullish on this project, and maybe why are you bullish on this other token but you are not owning them yet, like what's the reason, right? So it's something to look at a surface level, and also something worth diving deeper into as well. Yeah.
Actually, like what you're talking about, it reminds me of customer development. That is one of the concepts in digital marketing I do
Nice.
personally love a lot. Yeah, this is something that when you actually drive insights, not from yourselves and not from your research, but rather from your end customer. In our case, it's actually our community. I do also play with that sometimes. I don't know if you have seen like my let's say quest on finding your perfect Web3 guru match. And actually I was like asking in that quest the community about for example, what styles or posts they prefer most. And for me, it was like an insight that most people, they search for something minimalistic.
Right.
And like the second was PP memes, and the third was anime. So yeah, and most people like nowadays, they are using those ChatGPT generated images, and
Right.
they were somewhere like at the bottom of the listing. So minimalism is our like king. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Nice. So it's kind of like threads, right? Minimalistic is just words. Short post.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also about like the images, like in some cases we have those like something very bright, and we consider that like people will be attracted by that brightness, but in fact I think that it actually pushes people away, because they might seem that it's some advertisement or something promotional. Yeah, I mean, you have to think about many factors that can influence on a person's decision to, let's say, continue reading or open a thread or whatever. It's very interesting. It's always like a game of minds.
Yeah, and on that note, initially when this was all new, right, when you see a generative picture, it starts to draw you in. But now, when you scroll through a timeline, I'm sure you see dozens of it. So sometimes, when I see a thread starting with a generative picture, I don't really want to click into it. I don't feel attracted to tap into reading on what the guy is talking about just because of that. so commonly used picture nowadays.
Absolutely, I do
Right.
agree here with you as well. Actually, like, how do we like people, individuals make decisions? So first we have some, like, let's say the decision on whether we want to read further or not is actually made within the first 2 seconds. It's actually the heading, if we can afford, like, can have some time to read the heading, and it's actually the image. So the image is extremely important in case you apply it, because in this case it's not the headliner that the person will read, but it's the image which will be like paid attention to. So yeah, those generative images are not really, I mean, both people think that they do help, but in practice that they have spoiled the game for many creators. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Absolutely. And for me, like, I'm currently using Canva, and I'm trying to do like very minimalistic and, let's say, quite creative. For example, like using only 2 colors or something like that to be able to stand out. Yeah, so it helps. It doesn't work like necessarily perfectly. Obviously, like, I do have. I do remember, like, a few days ago. Yeah, I released a thread in Frogs, and it
Hmm.
was a very nice thread, very detailed. I mean, based on a crazy research by Ouroboros Capital, but no one read it.
No, I read
That
it.
happens.
I read it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
it's the one where they did like the math explanation, right, of why they are bullish on frags with the
Yeah,
numbers, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's pretty
absolutely.
interesting. I like what they are posting. So hope to see more of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and so you speaking of community building and marketing tips, right? So and you've done a really great job, right? I remember you reaching 15,000 recently, and you mentioned that you only started in mid March, right? So it's kind of about 3.5 months, 4 months, which is pretty
Yeah,
impressive, I think. So
yeah.
maybe could you share some marketing tips for people who are maybe like myself, growing my account, trying to grow my account, but and also for those who maybe they're trying to grow a project page and they're listening in. Yeah, so hit out with your marketing tips, man.
Yeah, so actually, like, to be honest, like, from my perspective, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still experimenting with different approach and different, like, scenarios and creatives and everything, because that's an endless, like, journey. I mean, the problem about city, and also its like magic, is that it's very rapidly evolving. And when you actually introduce something new, some fresh air into the crypto Twitter community, then somebody else will 100% mimic it and do something
That is true.
similar,
That is
and
true.
then, yeah, and then it becomes a trend. So you have to be like creative all the time, and you have to make up some new decisions, new solutions, and everything if you want to create to grow fast. So on my end, actually, the thing that helped me a lot was, on the one hand, usage of, let's say, some solutions that simplify the comprehension of data. For example, Miro dashboards, they have been one of my, let's say, killer features, and they actually, like, allow you to create mind maps of different concepts. And when you try to explain something to people in a whiteboard format, it helps a lot. I mean, for me personally, like, when I'm trying to explain some complex DeFi related stuff to my friends or my family, I always, like, try to draw it, because in that like realm, for them it becomes much easier to understand the how it works. And that's why I decided, like, to choose that format for Twitter as well. Then it was like with Threadoor graphics, that again was one of the formats I introduced, which is, let's say, an infographic that can be considered to be a thread. I mean, something that is embracing many different fields in one simple image, and then disclosed, like, described more in detail as the thread goes. This was also quite successful, but again, like, many people started using the same format, and it stop becoming something really individual,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So in the long run, it's actually like, I think that it's very, very important to find your own voice in Twitter, because there are many great researchers, many great threaders, many people who stand out for some reason and so on. I remember like one of the brightest examples for me was that guy who created some really beautiful whiteboards for Lida and everything. He was like explaining how it works in a what do you call it, like in a permanent market format, and it was so beautiful and so comprehensive, and at the same time like so dagon and sophisticated. It was really beautiful, and I loved what he was producing, and that was his unique like voice, if you know what I mean. Then we have, for example, Lambros, who has that very deep research combined with absolutely Daganish memes, and this is also his unique approach, and I love it a lot. We have Ignas, who is an absolute nerd, and he is like a nerd in everything that he does. This is very cool. And I was like searching for my own unique voice, and I think that my, like, let's say, positioning in crypto, that I do try to simplify complex concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, this is something that I do quite well, because I have been writing content for already like 7 years now, and it was something that is like has always been related to crypto. And for me, it's not that like I have explained how blockchain works to my grandma. This I think is actually an achievement, you know.
Right.
So yeah. And the next thing that I would love to emphasize is actually networking, because if you do not network, you're not growing. It's like, I do remember it was something that NFT God has like highlighted, that you play on you're playing the Twitter game on a hard mode if you are not networking and not using the power of direct messages. It's 100% true. I mean, in the start of my journey, the toughest part was actually to grow till 10K. After 10K, it becomes much easier, because people you already have some reputation, and the pace of your growth increases. But before that, I actually like, I just reached out to everybody I could. I tried to make friends, I introduced myself, I was very, very interested in what they were building, I was interacting with their content, and then one day when I released some thread that might be interesting to them, I just DM'd them and asked for a retweet. I mean, this is very, very straightforward. Maybe like some people will hate it, they will hate those DMs. I'm personally not a person who loves chatting a lot. I'm quite introverted, to be honest,
Oh, couldn't
but you
tell.
have to do that. Yeah. But like, yeah, it works like that, and it works efficiently when you make friends. And actually, like, to be honest, I have met lots of great people on Twitter, and I think that we're in a way soulmates, and it's very, very cool. I mean, when you're in it and when you realize that it's not for engagement but it's for something bigger, it's very cool. I love it a lot.
Awesome. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think when you mentioned about finding your own unique voice on posting your threads and content, right? I'm not sure if you're talking about the same guy with the whiteboard, but Eli 5 DeFi, like explain that I'm 5 DeFi, he does this pretty interesting image in his threads where it's kind of like the MacBook browser, right? So maybe it's the same thing, that same guy that we're referring to. It's a bit like a MacBook browser, so you'll see the three dots, green, yellow, and red at the corner, and then he'll write his content for that specific portion in that blank browser, right? So it's just a white screen, and then
Uh-huh.
he'll have a border, like a colored border around, and then his so-called watermark at the bottom as well. So I think that's a pretty interesting one, and I think that's a really, really good so-called finding your own voice. I think he found his using that format. I don't think I've seen much people follow that yet. So yeah, I think that's a good one. And like you mentioned, Lambros with his two Lambros, right, with his very funny memes and cartoon images and like huge, really huge titles.
Absolutely,
Right.
he's like a true Dagon. When somebody mentioned the concept of Web3 Dagon, I remember him and Poopman. Also, like those two
Oh,
are
right, right.
absolutely like crazy. Yeah,
He'll add like his wasi somewhere in the image as well.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Right. And moving on to the next topic, right? So you did a lot of threads on different projects, different chains. You explain stuff like modular versus what was the other word? Sorry.
Monolithic, yeah.
Right. That modular and monolithic. So obviously you've done a lot of research. Could we hear a little bit more about your research process before you click that buy button?
Absolutely. Actually, like to be honest, I'm a very conservative investor because I
Uh-huh.
have lost lots of money on passionate investments and on the FOMO thing. Now, when I do feel that FOMO feeling, for me, that's a marker that something is going wrong. Because let's say out of 100 trades that I did based on this feeling, only 2 or 3 were more or less successful. All other trades of that, like let's say behavior, they ended up in a wrecked position. So yeah, now I'm very, very conservative, and I do prefer to, let's say, to be exposed to lower risks and lower rewards, but to be able to control both those risks and those rewards. It's just my personal approach. I mean, I have tried many different scenarios, from meme coins to perp trading and let's say different pre-sales and everything. And for me, like the problem at that as a trader and as a marketer, I don't have that much time to focus on some particular position, and that's why I constantly lose opportunities. That's why, like in my case, I prefer to play low. So that's why I do build my portfolio from, let's say, tier 1, tier 2 projects mostly. And it's a very, very rare case that I jump in some new coin. So actually, for me to jump in it, I do need to find it myself without an impact of any third-party influencer or whoever. Because like I had a similar, I will like tell you a case that happened to me this weekend. I
Mm-hmm,
was
sure.
browsing through my timeline, and I like came across like some mention of space, and I was quite intrigued, like what it was and everything. So I checked Twitter. The concept seemed to be like quite interesting, and then I was about to buy some small bag of it, but then I told myself, nope, stop, please. Let's like do some more thorough research when we are back from the gym. And then I'm back from the gym, and I like start exploring it closer and closer, and I understand that what is happening to the coin now is just a classic pump. And I was about like to jump into a classic pump scheme. And I think that this is one of the problems that happens way too often to many traders and many investors. It that they, let's say, do not do sufficient research. What I mean when I'm talking about sufficient research. So first of all, the first thing that I evaluate is obviously like some metrics of the project. If it's already live, let's say trading volumes, market cap, total value locked, like all those classic things that we have to explore before we make our decision to invest. Then I also check with some like special tools, who is following that particular project and why they're following them. I mean, I actually like try to understand whether they have some sponsored relationships or if it's organic. Like for example, you can actually understand that with Tweet Scout. It's a very nice tool that allows you to see who are the top followers of a particular account and see how they're like connected, whether they tweet about each other and everything. So then the journey becomes simpler. Third thing is actually the level of fake social activity. Nowadays, it's very, very easy to, let's say, fake any activity that we have. Views, replies, likes, retweets, everything can be faked, and it's not that
Mm-hmm.
expensive actually. So, but there are some ratios that can give you a clue on whether this activity is organic or fake. I'm actually like right now I'm writing, not now, like today. Today I'm writing a thread about that more in detail. So yeah, we'll be releasing it shortly. Maybe it will be more interesting for you to dive deeper into how do you understand those ratios and how do you understand if community is organic and vibrant or fake and made of bots. And last but not least is actually the docs team. For me, it's quite important. I mean, nowadays we have a new standard emerging even in DeFi that a team should be doxed, it should be public. I mean, it's not necessary, but in many cases it's very, very important. And also, like, of course, the tokenomics. Like, it should be very clear, it should be public with all the information about the cumulative supply of tokens, so I can assess the inflation speed and everything. I mean, it's actually like it may seem to be quite comprehensive, but to be honest, it takes like 15-20 minutes to understand whether the project is worth being explored further or if it's a scam. Maybe not a scam, but just something that is not really worth your attention. But I think that many people are just too lazy to obtain those knowledge to be able to assess it in, let's say, 15-20 minutes. Because like fake volumes, fake activities, always visible. And you just should never trust this FOMO feeling. FOMO feeling is very, very bad.
I totally understand what you mean, man. Like I used to have that. Actually, I came into crypto at that exact point, right? Like it's a FOMO feeling. Everything I bought was already going up, and you're just missing out. Like if you don't buy, it's definitely going higher, right? And obviously, wrote the whole thing back down. But also nowadays, I'm having the feeling of FOMO, but then I think that okay, it's too late, right? Like similar to what you said, it's too late. Okay, we're not gonna buy. It's the FOMO feeling, and then afterwards you realize that actually, hey, you're not that late anymore, right? They kind of improved. So now when you find out something and you kind of get that FOMO feeling, you might not be where in the same scenario where you were when you first started, right? When you got that same FOMO feeling when it was towards the end, right? Now you can discover projects and tokens earlier, and you might actually be kind of still early, even though you have the fear where you're actually where you get the FOMO and you feel like you're actually near the top, right? But I guess it's something that you develop as we kind of grow along in this space and get more experience. Of course, I'm still learning that for myself. Lots of things that I miss, lots of things that I wrote down as well. And you know, and you were talking about sharing the research process, right? And I'm very glad that you actually went deeper into the factors that you look at, like TVL and like talking about teams and tokenomics and stuff. It's really nice to hear you share your framework and what you specifically look into instead of just saying like, oh no, you guys should go and do your own research, man. Right? So I really appreciate you that you share the whole process. And also shout out to Jake and Dynamo Patrick. They have really great frameworks as well. So I suggest that you guys go check them out. Check the previous episodes they shared about that as well. All right, and moving on to the next question, which is still related on the same topic. Which DeFi sector are you most bullish on right now, and why? So obviously you dive into lots of stuff. Which sector
Yeah.
in particular right now, at this point?
I'd say that it's risk taking and modular chains. Yeah, yeah. Actually, like personally, I'm extremely bullish on what Eigenlayer is building.
Right, I was about
And
to say
then
that.
yeah, I'm their like absolute fan, absolute spiritual advisor because as I dive deeper and understand their use cases and how this can be used to scale Ethereum and to scale Ethereum securities to new blockchains and like let's say applications and whatever, this is really crazy. This is a very cool concept that makes like Ethereum more capital efficient and a better investment. And I think that in the long term, it will definitely like this game will be worth the candles. I'm also very closely watching the LSD5 narrative, and I think that we are very close to something new to be evolving around that narrative. I mean, we had like staking, classic Ethereum staking with Lido, with Rocket Pool, and everybody showing some very good growth. Then we received some LSD-Fi things like, let's say, Pandal, and all those companies who are like building something in that direction. And I think that we are about to have even more use cases, like maybe something like LSD Fi staking or restaking. I mean, that DeFi Lego is continuously expanding with new concepts and new use cases. And this inspires me a lot. I'm actually watching closely that field. To be honest, I do think that, let's say, the LSD Fi narrative is unlikely to grow further in the upcoming. I mean, by TVL, it can still like increase and everything, but I don't think that we will have any big new names in this realm. Same as in the realm of CDPs, based on like same as Libra, for example. Yeah. So I do not think that we will have some new, like, let's say, game-changing projects in that realm. But when we are like considering that as a wide, let's say, range of different opportunities that liquid staking opens, I think that we have unlocked roughly like 40% of everything that can be introduced into this field. That's why I'm personally like I'm having a very close look at all new like applications and projects that are launching. And actually, like Eigenlayer and restaking is one of the new use cases to the Ethereum staking, which is very, very nice in my opinion. So this is something that I'm personally very bullish on. Second thing, it's actually not that obvious, but I think that it will be evolving faster and faster. It's actually institutional grade products. No one is actually talking about that a lot, but I think that the next bull run will be heavily associated with the influx of institutional traders. We now see like some very positive moves in terms of regulation and everything, even though they are like combined with some disasters, as the case with Solana or Matic, if you know what I mean, yeah, with their the listings and everything. But I think that on overall, the crypto and DeFi as an industry, they become more and more regulated and transparent for institutional capital to come. But they obviously like for us to be able to onboard institutional capital, we also need to have like the required level of architecture and the required level of products to be able to provide institutional with everything that they need, including accounting, including like onboarding, all security measures of the institutional grade custody and everything. So I think that this is likely to be a hidden trend that is currently being formed, and I think that it will, like, let's say, prosper when the next bull market comes.
Awesome. I think it's really, really relevant. Like, I'm sure many people agree with you right now on the restaking and LSD5, right? LSD5, sorry. That it is the most like hot topic right now. Like, people were waiting for the Eigenlayer deposit to be open just a few days ago or last week. Yeah, so definitely I think this has a lot of eyes on them, these two topics. And of course, the institutional research and entry, I think definitely I do think we will see a lot more institutions coming into the space with how it's developing right now, and might have to disagree a little bit with you on how it is not very obvious. I do think many people are noticing or kind of guessing that, or expecting is the word, that more institutions will be moving into the space over the next few years in the current cycle, right?
Yeah, should be that. I mean, it's not just why I told that it's not, let's say, very, very obvious. It's that just like compared to the popularity of the liquid staking narrative,
Right.
we do
Okay.
not
Okay.
really talk about institutional that often. But yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's very obvious why liquid staking is growing. I mean, it's no coincidence. It's the Chappelle upgrade and the withdrawable Ethereum yields. And for Ethereum, it's incredibly important to have as much Ether staked as possible, because it makes the network more secure. and as long as they can, they will be pushing like liquid staking and LSDFi solutions and everything. By the way, I do think that Frax is also one of the projects to watch closely, because the amount of Ethereum locked and Lido is actually a bit like too high, and I think that they will be trying to decrease, let's say, to have more big players in this game. And in this realm, I would say that Rocket Pool and Frax is actually having the highest yields for Ethereum restaking. They're likely to be very lucrative when we are balancing the ratios of Ethereum staked in different liquid staking solutions.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And I think on the point of LSD5 being more popular than institutions coming in is because I think it's really because there's no tokens that you can benefit from on institutions entering. Like you can't be betting, like buying to a project, have a stake in them entering, but you can kind of gain from the LSD5. So I think that is why, right? Like token price over everything else.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
my take.
Absolutely. I mean, people like in crypto, obviously, we are all here to earn in some way. I mean, some people, they do earn, let's say, on selling advertisements. Others do earn from investments. Some others earn from trading, and so on and so forth. It's absolutely fine. And yeah, you're absolutely right here. Like, we have the narrative that generate yield. They are most like bespoken and they're most discussed. This is very logical, absolutely.
Right. And okay, had a really great chat talking with you on all the crypto related stuff, right? Hearing your thoughts and marketing tips and all. Maybe now I'd like to know a little bit more about you, know a bit more about Stacy. So maybe could you describe to me your typical day?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually a person who works a lot.
Oh
I do
man.
really work a lot. Yeah. So classically, like if we are talking about a classic like Friday or Thursday, like a classic working day. Luckily I have been working remotely for already 5 years, so I don't
Wow.
need to go
Must
to
be nice.
office. And yeah, I'm traveling a lot, and I'm actually just working remotely from different places around the globe. So yeah, I wake up like at around 9. My morning always starts with a cup of coffee, better 2 cups of coffee, and then I just open my laptop and it starts. Like the first thing that I'm checking is Twitter. I reply to different messages and react to commentaries. Then I do have this planning thing. In the beginning of every day, this is very important for me, is that I write down all the assignments and things that I plan to, let's say, complete within this day. And I even define the timeline in which I plan to do this or that thing. Because when you have a very tough workload, planning is actually essentially important. It just takes you
Totally agree.
like, I don't know, 2 5 minutes to do that, to write it down, but your day is already structured and you do have some time to work, to complete your tasks, and to go to the gym. You know, like whether you can do this particular task in a relaxed way, or if you need to hurry up, have maximum concentration and everything. Then, so actually, the day starts. The day is, for me, the day is actually a combination of research, threading, chatting with my colleagues, discussing new marketing campaigns and everything. So normally I do work 9-10 hours per day. Then in the evening, like there are two possible options. Either my husband and I would go somewhere to the forest to play tennis or badminton. Like that's option
Nice.
one, and option two, and option two, yeah, is actually going to the gym. So two potential scenarios of how it goes, and then I'm back home playing some video games and going to sleep.
Oh
Simple as that,
nice.
yeah. The weekends are more interesting, obviously, so I do my best to go somewhere to the countryside and touch some grass and see the mountains and everything, because, yeah, I do try to work less during the weekend. Actually, like, I had a very severe insomnia this spring. It was one of the reasons why I started tweeting, because I had like lots of spare time, you know. And I decided, like, considering that I have this problem, maybe I should start like my new Twitter account. And it was actually one of the reasons for that insomnia was that I worked way too lot, but I love working, and now I do try to like minimize some working processes during the weekend. It's better for me to like concentrate on the job things during the week, and then for the weekend to go somewhere, to touch grass, to, I don't know, see the sky and everything.
You're actually living my dream life right now. When you mentioned that you've just been traveling over the world and working at the same time, that's what I want to do as well. And it's also really,
Actually,
yeah. Go ahead.
actually, that's pretty challenging. Like last year, I lived in South Africa for 3 months,
Uh huh.
and it was not that easy. I mean, I actually, yeah, it was the same work and travel experience. But when I was living like South Africa after 3 months of living there, I realized that actually I didn't have a chance to see a smaller part of the country, because even if I had, like, let's say, an opportunity to have a vacation for 2 weeks, I would definitely rent a car and travel around the country and see like different cities and everything. But when you, like, let's say, are living in this format of work and travel, you can't go way too far from the destination in which you're living, and that limits you somehow, and it's like neither nor, you know.
Ah,
So the perfect case is actually when you have a vacation in the middle of your work and travel experience. That's the best if you can afford it. Like you just come to a new place first, you just work and you explore the city in which you're living, then you have some vacation, you go somewhere like for these big routes, watching like new people, meeting different like tribes or whatever, and then like you're back to work. Yeah, that's the best.
yeah. I would imagine like taking the weekends off for a short travel, or but yeah, I mean most of the weekdays I guess you'll be within the same area of where you're staying, so not much of venturing outside unless you're kind of like shifting places every week or 2 weeks. Then maybe you explore a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, but that is also like you have to have a very limited pack of things to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
move. That's the format. I lived in Turkey, and it was like that. I lived in each city for no longer than 1 month, and it was quite stressful, you know, because during the weekend you either go on a short trip or you move to a new city, and it's that you're stressed during the week and you're also stressed during the weekend.
So you're kind of like on a holiday, but not in a holiday, right? Like you just settled down
Yeah,
and then you're out to a new environment again.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And I think you pretty much answered my next question of your hobby. So you mentioned like go to the gym, tennis, badminton, video games. And actually I realized the vast majority of people in crypto do like to go to the gym somehow, or like more
Absolutely. Yeah.
most of my
This is
guests
very,
have been doing that, right? Like, I do that myself as well. It was like pretty interesting thing.
I think that this is in a way like a format to decrease the stress,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
we have like this mental activity during the largest part of the day, and in the gym it's actually like pure physical activity, and your brain is maximally relaxed, you know.
Right.
You're
I
not
totally
thinking
agree.
about anything. Yeah, so that's, I think that that's the reason. And also like we're all, let's say, now what, 20s, maybe let's say slightly after 20s, and that's the period when like we're the generation that does understand that if you like train a lot and if you have like this balance between mental health and physical health, then you're like the era when you will be old will be not that bad, you know.
Right. But I totally agree. I mean, like if you go out for a run or go to the gym and then you do this consistently, you don't feel as tired as like there was a period where I wasn't exercising for a few months and you just feel lethargic all the time. Even though you slept for let's say 8 9 hours and then I wake up and in the afternoon I feel like sleeping again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, I do see that even like on the on the examples of my parents or friends who are not really having those, like, it can be any physical activity, whatever you love. I mean,
Yeah.
some people hate gym. It's absolutely fine. I mean, for them, we have like dancing or swimming or whatever. I mean,
Right.
something should be there because we're like in a way animals, and we do need that activity, you know.
Yeah, being active is really good. And okay, so I think we should wrap things up soon. Maybe I'll have like the last three questions for you. So, firstly, which is, what are some of the goals for yourself for the rest of the year? Could be for yourself, like in your personal life, or it could be crypto, your Twitter account, anything, man.
Well, actually, like, yeah, I do have something like that really means a lot to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
have like mentioned earlier that I do plan to start my personal, let's say, journeys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, independently from a project. And actually, by the end of this year, I hope that I will be able to launch like the MVP of that thing, and I will be able to build, let's say, some community around it and to get like some feedback on how interesting it is for people. Because I think that, like, actually, if we are speaking about Web3 projects, one of the biggest issues nowadays is that most projects that they build for themselves, not for the community. I mean, there is a founder and he's really obsessed with some idea and he believes it's cool and he pushes it and he raises money for building this idea and then he releases it, but no one needs it, and it's so like disgusting, to be honest. So for me it's very important to have that constant exchange in ideas with the community, because if your product is not like, let's say, valuable, if it's not adding any value for the market, then why do you need that? It's just a waste of time and a waste of resources. Maybe you should build something for the community, not for yourselves. Yeah, so I hope that I will be able to gather some feedback on my product by the end of this year. I think this is one of the most important things to focus on.
Nice. And like any goals outside of that, maybe for your personal life, like I don't know, maybe you want to travel to a different part of the world this time.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I really love traveling a lot. I have been to many different places. So currently, I'm living in Eastern Asia. Sorry, not Asia, Eastern Europe. But I do want to go to Japan
Oh,
really
nice.
much. I have never been there, but I think that it should be like some very, very beautiful experience out there.
It
And the
is,
second
yeah.
thing is that, yeah, and the second thing is that I do want to go to Iceland one more time. I have been there, Iceland, and Iceland is in Swedish, so sorry. So yeah, I do want to go there like one more time, because this has been like, for me, it's actually like, as a person who studied Swedish, for me all these Scandinavic things, they're very, very, let's say, mythic and very culturally attractive. And Iceland is one of the most beautiful countries I have ever been to. The second is actually South Africa, also very
Wow.
beautiful and highly recommended. Yeah, it's actually very, very much of the US or European style of life. Obviously, there are like some poor people in the streets, but it's not as we think when we like go traveling. Let's say, for example, in Latin America, it's far more dangerous for travelers. But South Africa is, it's really beautiful. Cape Town, like my one love.
Nice. I haven't been there, but I've heard good things. Haven't been to Europe as well. Hopefully, within the next 2 years, I'll get to Europe. But Japan is really nice. Like I've been to Japan once, would totally go back there. It's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, actually, like, if I had an opportunity, I would love to visit all places around the globe, because I think that even every country has something special, no matter like which region is that, and let's say how rich or poor it is, because it's always a miracle. And I mean, for me, this segmentation between the countries and borders, I'm actually like, sometimes I think that I'm a true like anarchist somewhere very deeply in my heart, and DeFi is something that I badly need, because for me there is like no difference between people who live in different like regions and countries, and it's really ridiculous when you, let's say, I traveled like over the weekend, and I was watching the border of Romania, and it was between Serbia and Romania, and there is like the Danube river, and when you stand on one side of the, let's say, of the bankment here in Serbia, you watch the other side of the river, and it's Romania. And it's like,
Wow.
why? There, I mean, it's absolutely similar houses, absolutely similar
Oh.
cars, even people, they look like very, very similar, but they are like two different countries, and you need a visa to pass, like, actually to travel. Why? It's ridiculous.
I kind of get it. I kind of get it. Like I'm from Singapore, right? And Malaysia is literally, we're kind of connected by land to Malaysia, and pretty similar cultures as well. Food is also really similar, but we are two separate countries. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, Singapore is also one of the places I want to visit a lot.
Yeah,
I
come
have
sure.
heard a lot about Singapore. I have also heard that it's quite expensive to stay there.
Yes, it is.
But let's see.
Yes, it is. Right, and also I think this question would really mean a lot coming from you as well, based on your rich experience in crypto. What is your one biggest takeaway from being in crypto?
Um, I have actually like written it down. I recently issued long read on like my personal lessons from crypto
Wow,
experience and everything. Yeah, and actually for me, is that the opportunity always comes to those who can afford to wait. Uh, I do think that now is a perfect opportunity to accumulate Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything. And for me, it's essentially important not to expect any like fast returns. It's always risky. It's way better to play long in everything. I mean, when you build relationships with your partner, you're playing long. When you go to the gym, you're also playing long. I mean, actually you
interesting.
will see, yeah, you will actually see like some results first after the year, or maybe 2 years or 3 years. When you're building a family, it's like the same. You should respect your partner. You should be building your, let's say, relationships and strengthening your relationships every day. And same about crypto. I mean, for me, it's not really clear how do people expect a fast game in Web3, considering that in all other areas of our life, we have to play long. So I'm playing long in this realm, and I like back in 2018, I had a friend. He was working at an atomic plant, and his salary was very, very low. And once I did recommend him to buy Bitcoin at 3K, and he sold at 50K, and he bought a flat in his city. And he was far from being a rich guy, you know. And I think that such things, when you are okay to wait and sometimes wait for years, they are really game changing and life changing. Not when you're trying to hunt some big yields tomorrow or in a week or in 3 weeks. It usually is not like ending up well, and even if you do, you usually like lose those money because you will repeat the same scenario of trading or whatever. And when you trade, it's like, you know, casino always wins. Unfortunately, it's the same about many other things in crypto.
Nice. That's a very, very interesting take. I think I need to re-listen to this when I publish the episode as well.
Thank you so much. I was like prepared.
All right, and thank you so much. To wrap things up, I will end this as I usually do with one final question. Could you give me three names for guest nominations in future for the podcast?
Yeah, of course. It's definitely like two guys that we have mentioned earlier. It's Poopman and Lambros.
Uh huh.
Like, guys, my hugs to you. And also, I would love to nominate Rubix. He is actually a guy who is one of the best actually experts in tokenomics I have ever met, even though I'm like building token models myself. When I read what this guy is like writing and the way he breaks down token models, I decided that he was a genius, really. He's not really followed by many people, but I think that's he deserves like some attention for sure.
Interesting. I'll definitely be sure to check him out after this. And thank you so much for your time, Stacy. It's been a really great chat. It's really nice to hear all your sharings and to hear from your experience as well. Is there any final thing that you want to touch on that we haven't talked about?
I do really appreciate, to be honest, it was the best interview I have ever had.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah, and then it's very relaxed. I do wish you all the best in your endeavors to like build your own channel and to continue doing what you are doing. I will definitely like go through the podcasts you have recorded earlier, because I think that it's always very, very cool. I mean, most people in Web3 are, let's say, more or less anonymous, but you can, let's say, when you're listening to a person, you do
Mhm.
have a stronger connection to
Right.
them compared to when you just read their threads or whatever. So that's a very nice format. And yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And for everybody who will be listening, I want to wish good luck, and actually do never like, it's always better to do something and to regret it than not doing it and like regretting that you didn't do that for the rest of your life. So do venture for something new, do learn, continue like improving your knowledge, and yeah, and be patient. uh,
Nice.
patient Patience actually is very, very important. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Stacy. Thank you, the audience, as well, for listening in for this episode. Do check out Stacy if you haven't already done so. All her links will be down below in the description below as usual. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode and want to listen in to more episodes in future, do remember to subscribe to the channel and turn the notifications on so you do not miss a single episode. Alright, and till next episode, see you. Bye bye.